you may see something that looks like this. So the three situations are that the higher power is in the denominator, the highest power is the same in the numerator and the denominator, or the highest power is in the numerator. If the highest power is in the denominator, like we see here, where 3 is the higher power, 2 is the lower power, this is always going to result in a horizontal asymptote. And no matter what the numbers are, it will always be y equals 0. If the powers are the same, like we see here, then it's always going to result in a horizontal asymptote as well. And again, ignoring everything else in our function, we're going to take those leading coefficients, which just means the numbers in front of those higher powered terms. And that ratio will be our horizontal asymptote. The third possibility is that your higher power is in the numerator, which we see here. In that case, you're going to have to find a slant asymptote, and that'll require some division. And you have a video that walks you through that. So let's talk about the asymptotes and any holes in the function and how to find those. So in our order that we do things, we always start by looking for a horizontal or slant asymptote before we factor. So to find that, we need to consider what the different situations may be. So let's talk about those three possible situations. Looking at our situation, what we have is that the higher power is the same on both the top and the bottom. So what that tells me is that my horizontal asymptote, well, first of all, that I'm going to have a horizontal asymptote. And secondly, that my horizontal asymptote is just going to be the ratio of whatever those leading coefficients are. So I look at my leading coefficients, 1 and 3, and that tells me my horizontal asymptote is just going to be 1/3. So this happens before factoring. All right. After we factor, we can start to think about any holes in the function. So let's look at that. So after we factor. Now, to factor this expression, I mean, you got to be able to factor. That's a big thing about this whole process. This it can be factored into, let's see, the top can be factored to x minus 4 times x minus 1. In the denominator, I'm going to start by factoring out a 3 because as a GCF. And then I can actually factor that a little bit more. So I have this polynomial in the bottom. And in order to figure out if there are any holes in the function, I have to look for any giant 1s that might be in what I just factored. So I can see that there's a giant 1 right here and right there. Those two factors create a giant 1. So now that we know where the giant 1 is, we can take those factors, that x minus 1, and ask ourselves what would make that factor be 0. So a really easy way to figure that out is to just take that x minus 1 and set it equal to 0. And that gives you x equals 1. Now, what that tells you is that that is the x coordinate of the hole in the function. Okay? So our next step is to eliminate that giant 1 and rewrite our function one last time. So we have x minus 4 over 3 times x minus 3. In order to find the y coordinate for the hole, because we still need to figure that out, I'm going to take what I just wrote and I'm going to substitute what I found for the x coordinate in for x. Okay, so to find the y coordinate, I'm going to take that expression, x minus 4 over 3 times x minus 3, and I'm going to plug in 1. So 1 minus 4 over 3 times 1 minus 3. Well, let's see, that's going to be negative 3 over negative 6. So that just simplifies to be 1/2. And that's the y coordinate for your hole in the function. All right, so once you have factored and you've gotten rid of your giant 1s, now's when we can actually go and find our vertical asymptotes. So after giant 1s, we can figure out any vertical asymptotes. Now, your vertical asymptotes are whatever makes your denominator 0. Okay, so whatever makes the denominator 0. So when you're thinking about your vertical asymptotes, you're going to look at the denominator. Again, after you've factored and after you've gotten rid of giant 1s. So I look at the denominator and I ask myself, there's 2 factors there. Okay, what would make 3 0 and what would make x minus 3 0? Well, there's no way I can make 3 0, right? I mean, it's impossible. It can't happen. So this doesn't give us an asymptote. However, 3 would make the second factor 0. So this is my vertical asymptote.